Hi, it's Drew at Finale Fireworks. Today I'm going to use some of the latest features in Finale 3D to create the show design template for the 2023 PyroJam competition. If you're entering the competition, you don't need to follow these steps. You'll just download the ready-to-use template from the competition page and use it as the starting point for your show. If you're new to PyroJam, the competition kicks off in January 2023 and you don't want to miss out. You can get a free Finale 3D Pro license to join, and if your show is in the top 3, it will be shot live in front of thousands of people at the PyroJam Festival and share in $5,000 of cash prizes. To learn more, head over to finale3d.com, then go to the resources menu at the top of the page, and then select competitions. Once the competition goes live, this is where you'll find all the information you need to get started. And with that, let's jump into Finale 3D. First thing I'd like to do is put my Google Maps imagery in, so I'll go to Scenery, Ground Images, and choose Set Ground to Google Map. From here, I can just search for the location, which is Jefferson Patterson Park, and that's in St. Leonard, Maryland, and there it is. So I'll just zoom out a little bit using my mouse wheel, and then I'll just drag the map over to the shoot site, which is this area here. And what I'd like to do is base our coordinate system around the center of the shoot site, approximately right there. So I'll just drag the map to where I'd like Origin Man to appear once the map's downloaded, and then I'll just click OK. It takes just a minute to download the Google Map, and then we'll get a dialog asking us about adjusting the render settings, and there it is. We just click yes, and we'll make a couple adjustments in render settings. I'm going to increase the terrain brightness to 3 so we can really clearly see the Google Map for the purpose of laying out our positions, and then I'll change the model brightness to 2 because we're going to add some models in a little bit. So just click OK, and there you can see the Google Map. And at the moment, when I click front, I'm looking to the north. I'm viewing from south to north. But in this case, our shoot site is oriented looking from east toward west. And so I want to change the default orientation of the front, top, and side camera presets. That also will help us adding firing positions because it will align the rulers to the same direction, the rulers and the coordinate system on the ground in the same direction as our front view. So to do that, we'll just go, we can look from any direction. We can look just like this, or we can look from overhead. I think for this shoot site, it's easiest to look overhead. I'm just holding Control on my keyboard and then clicking, click and drag to be able to orient this the way I'd like. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring this kind of like this. And I'd like to say that now up on my screen is the direction that our audience will look. So all I'm going to do is right click on the grass and choose Set Front View Orientation. And just like that, I'll click Continue. And now, instead of the front view looking to the north, it looks to the west, the direction that our audience will look at PyroJam. So there's our front view, and that looks pretty good. So with that, the next thing I notice is that my sunset doesn't look great. So I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustment to the sky dome image, which is that nice picture of the sunset that's wrapped over there. Now, right now it's in the north, and I just want to go ahead and move it over here. So you'll notice when I clicked on the ground, I saw that the front view was 263 degrees. So I can just go to Scenery, Sky Dome Image Adjustments, and I can change the compass direction to 263, and that will put the sunset right there in the west in the sky. So that looks great. All right, the next thing I'd like to do is look at the rulers for my firing positions. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock the positions using the gold lock there. And then we'll come overhead and we'll just click on a position. And there you can see that the units are in feet. Now I'm going to be laying out the positions based on feet, so this is perfect. But if I weren't in feet, I could change a user setting, which is File, User Settings, Show Ruler Distances in feet instead of meters. So if you're working in meters, change that to meters. If you're working in feet, then you'll want to turn this setting on. These firing positions are going the wrong way. They're going toward and away from the audience, and I need rows of positions going across. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these. So I'll go to the top view, zoom out a little bit. I'll just hold Shift and then click and drag, select all these positions, and then I'll just go ahead and hit delete on my keyboard. So now we're going to go ahead and add our positions. So I'm going to go to the Positions menu. I'll choose Add, and I'll choose Multiple Positions. My very first row of firing positions will have 19 positions. So enter 19 and click Enter. And they're going to be positions for proximate effects. So I'm going to adjust the spacing and then move them to the right place in the field. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Positions menu, Arrange in a Pattern, and choose Into a Line. and I would like the width of this row of positions to be 400 feet. Here I can enter a number. If I enter a number with no units, I'm going to get meters. So that's going to make this really wide. And obviously 400 feet is going to be narrower. So I'll go back to positions, arranging a pattern into a line. And if you want to feet, you got to make sure to type the units. I'll just type FT. There's my units in feet, 400. And I'll just place these right here, right about where the origin is. And those will be pretty close to our audience. Those are our approximate positions. And the names right now start with the letter P, so that's perfect. I'm not going to rename them at all. So prox 01 through prox 19. Let's go ahead and add the rest of the firing positions. Basically, we're just going to be repeating those same steps. I'd like these positions to be called front or F for short. So I'm going to just go ahead, and since I have all these positions selected, I can just right click on any of them, choose rename, and I can just type the letter F. And just by typing the letter F, Finale will automatically append the numbers after. So you got F01 through F19. We're all set. And there we go. Just like that, we've got all of our firing positions in, and we can go ahead and snap back to the front view. Next, I'll go ahead and lock my positions down so I don't accidentally move any of them. So I'll just click the gold lock in the lower right-hand corner, and that completes the position layout. The next thing I'd like to do is make the shoot site look a little bit more realistic by adding some trees on the perimeter. So you can see that the Google Maps imagery is 2D, so it's flat, doesn't have anything 3D in it, and that's just a limitation of the Google Maps feature and the information we can get from Google. So we can spice this up by adding some models of trees. So the way I can do that is by going to the scenery menu. I can go to models, and if I need to find a model, I can go to browse and download SketchUp models. So if I click continue here, that'll bring up a web browser, and that'll bring me to the SketchUp 3D warehouse. Here I can just search for something like trees, and then in the search results, click models, and then scroll through till I find something I like and download the model for free. I did this a little bit earlier, so I already have a model saved that I'm going to use. To add the model, I'll go back to the scenery menu. I'll choose models and choose add models. I'll just hop over to the PyroJam directory here, design template, and choose the SketchUp model I downloaded earlier to add it to the show. It's giving me a warning about the size of the model. It's okay, it's not too big in this case. I'll just click continue. And we already made a rendering settings adjustment for brightness, so I don't need to do that this time. I can see that model just fine. So let's orbit up a little bit here and we can see that model. So in this case, the model is not just a tree, but it's a row of trees. You can see it there. And obviously it needs to be moved over to the left side of my shoot site. So I need to drag it over here. Now I can't drag the model at the moment. I need to go up to scenery and go to lock models in place, and I need to turn this off. So by unchecking that setting, now I can mouse over the model, click on it, and drag it over to where I'd like to have it on top of those trees in real life. So here we go, that's pretty close. There's just one issue, which is that the tree row in the model is not in the same direction. So I need to go ahead and rotate it. To do that, I'll just right click, rotate model. Then I can click and drag here to rotate the model to get it in an orientation that I like. That looks pretty good. And then I'll just click on the grass when I'm done rotating. Then I can just drag it to the exact right spot. Okay, now what I'd like to do is just duplicate this model a few times, and that way I can put trees around the perimeter. But I don't want to do that by going and having to re-add that model over and over. That's just more work than I need to do. So the shortcut is just to hold Control on my keyboard. And now when I click on the model and drag, it's duplicating the model just by doing that. Every time I release and click again, as long as I'm holding that Control key, I'm getting a duplicate of that model added to the show. Let's do a couple more here. And then we can come down here to see how it looks. And that's starting to look pretty nice. So let's go ahead and add some trees on the back, and then we'll call it good. So we'll go ahead and hold Control, click again to duplicate. And now this one I need to rotate. So go ahead, right click, rotate that model, bring it in here. And then remember, when you're done rotating, click away from the model to turn off the rotation feature. And then we'll bring this guy in here, duplicate a couple more times. And let's say that looks pretty good. Let's go back to the front view and see what we've got. All right, that looks really nice. So let's say that we're happy with that. As a final step, we'll go to the scenery menu, and just like we did with the positions where we lock them in place using the gold lock icon, we'll go ahead and lock the models in place from the scenery menu. The next thing I'd like to do is add a new camera preset and add some position groups. So let's start with the camera preset first. Right now we have a front camera preset, a top camera preset, and a side camera preset. You can also use the 2D lock to lock the design view and bring the position names down here, which can make it very easy to select positions. Let's go ahead and unlock, and what I'd like to do is add another camera viewpoint. So I'll go ahead and just kind of orbit up here a little bit. I'm doing that by holding Control on my keyboard and then just click and drag. And let's say we'd like to go with something like this, get it just right. And then I'll just hit the green plus, and then I can click on the title here to change the name, and I'll just call it Bird's Eye. So there we go. So now when we need to select firing positions when designing, we can easily switch from front to bird's eye, and that allows us to easily select firing positions if we're not using the 2D lock mode. So there we go. And now let's go ahead and add some position group shortcuts. The reason to have position group shortcuts is just another way to make it easier to select firing positions. So for example, right now I just have the 1 and it says all positions. So if I wanted to add an effect to every firing position, I could click that and it selects them all at once. It's just a little bit quicker than doing Shift on my keyboard and dragging a selection box. So what I'd like to do is make a position group for each row of firing positions. And then of course, when you're designing your show, you can make more as needed. So to do that, it's pretty simple. I just Shift drag a selection box to select the prox positions, and then I click the green plus to add a position shortcut. Again, just like my camera views, I can click on the name or the title to change the name, and I'll just call these prox. There we go. For the F positions, I'll just call them front. So we'll select them, click the green plus, change the name by clicking the title, put in front. Do the same thing for cakes. Put in the name of cake, and make it a little bit easier to select them. I'll orbit up a little bit, Shift, drag a selection box again, add one more, and we'll call these small shells. And then one more, the last 3 positions, and we'll call these big shells, and rename. There we go. So now if we go back to the bird's eye view, you can see as I click through, first I got my all positions, there's my big shells, there's my cakes, there's my fronts, there's my prox, and there's my small shells. So if I want to quickly add effects from the effects window, that makes it really easy to do. At this point, from a design perspective, the template is pretty much ready to go, but I'd like to head over to the racks window and show you some of the new rack layout features. So to do that, we'll just go to the window menu and I'll choose racks window. And here we can see the site layout within the racks window, which now includes the Google Map, which is one of the newer features. I'll make a couple changes to the settings. So I'll just go up to the upper left-hand corner and click Settings. And here, the first thing I'd like to do is go ahead and hide the grid. And that's the grid you see here that shows the measurements of the shoot site. And the other thing that I'd like to do is point out these circles. So there are 2 sets of safety circles that can be drawn on a site map, and they're called A and B. They have different colors. And one is the effect safety distances, and the other set of circles is the position safety distances. So by knowing this, I can go ahead and show you how to add the circles. So I'll just click Enter to save, and you can see that grid disappeared, but we're still not seeing any safety circles, and that's because we need to fix up the positions a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and do position safety circles first, and then effect safety circles second. So to do position safety circles, I'm going to go ahead and bring this over here. I'll just do window. Actually, what we'll do to keep the layout clean is I'll just go to the window menu and I'll choose preset 3. And then I'll set the main design window to be the racks window, and it'll keep my script and effects open over here on the right. Next, I'll go to the window menu and I'll choose the positions window, and that will open up the positions window, and I can put in my safety distances. In the positions window, there's a variety of columns. All I really need for this is the name column, so I can see the name of my positions, and I need the safety distance meters column, which is here. can be a little bit difficult to see if there's a lot of columns visible. If you want to clean this up a little bit, you can hide some columns. In this case, just in the interest of time, I'm going to work with it just like this. So what we need to do now, in order to see the safety circles, is input the safety distances in meters. Has to be put in meters here. So we'll start with the procs. So we'll come down here. These are our position names, and they're sorted alphabetically. So the procs positions start here. Here's procs 1 through procs 19. So the safety distance for these, for this example, is going to be 50 feet. So that's 50 feet from the position. That'll be our radius for our circles. So I need to put in 15.2. That's 50 feet in meters. And there you can see we've got a position safety distance circle drawn right there on the site layout. So instead of typing it for each of these, I can just copy and paste. So I can right click and copy, select all these cells, right click and paste. And there you go. Now we've not only have we got a circle drawn for 50 feet for each position, but the interiors of the circles, the overlapping regions, they've automatically been trimmed to make the sitemap look really clean. And that's one of the coolest features. So we'll just continue this process for the other positions, and you can see how the sitemap takes shape. The reason I did from smallest to largest was because if I did the biggest ones first, you wouldn't be able to see those smaller circles. But now you can see, since we've added the safety circles for the largest effects, the 6-inch shells on these 5 and 6-inch shell positions here, what's happening is, since all of those other circles are interior, they're not even being shown, which is perfectly fine, but I wanted you to be able to see those little circles as they came together first. All right, let's go ahead and work on some effect safety distance circles. So let's come up here, let's close the positions window, and I'll go back to the design view, and I also want to open the racks window so you can see the circles taking place being drawn in real time. So we'll kind of come over here, and I'm going to shrink this window down so you can see it. Put it on the bottom corner of the screen here. Actually, we can just drag this off. You'll be able to see a little bit more. So really, when you're designing a show, you really wouldn't need to see this, but I just wanted you to be able to see how cool it is when the circles are added as the effects are added to the script. So we got the PyroJam collection of effects here. I'm just going to go to subtype, and I'll choose some single shot comments with mines, and then I'll just go ahead and select front 1, and let's just go ahead and drop in, how about this red meteor with white strobe mine, just like that. And there you can see we've got that red effect safety distance circle being drawn, and that's based on the effect safety distance, which has been pre-populated in the PyroJam effect collection. The next thing I want to show is how the circles can be offset, and this is really cool. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go ahead and angle this effect to the left. Let's put a pretty aggressive angle, say 60 degrees. You notice that nothing changed in our site layout, and that's because at the moment the safety circle is centered around the position regardless of the effect angle. But if I go to settings, here I see safety circles A is our effect safety distance. I can change this to effect safety distance plus angle, and when I save, now you'll see that safety distance circle has moved over based on where that effect ends. And in this case, it's a comet, so it's just sort of burning out. But if it were a shell, it would be bursting right here because that's its max altitude right there. So now check this out. We'll go ahead and we'll straighten this effect up. And I'll go to Script, Duplicate into Flights, and I'll add 13 comets 10 degrees apart. And now you can see the safety distance circles are being drawn for all of those effects. And you've got that slot with the interior portions automatically trimmed away. So if I go ahead and copy this, I'm using Control-C on my keyboard and then paste it on position 19, you'll be able to see we now have 2 fans in the show. So we've got those sets of safety distance circles. So you can see how quickly it just automatically adds the circles in with no effort. Let's add a couple shell effects just to complete the example. So I'll go ahead and clear the filter on my single shot, and let's go over to some 5-inch shells. So here I've got my 5-inch shells, and I'll just go ahead and add a few of these blue chrysanthemums. So to do that, I'll select my big shell shortcut, which selects my big shell positions in the back, and then I'll choose, let's choose right this spot on our timeline right here, drag these guys over, and select our blue chrysanthemums, and there you go. So now I've got 3 blue chrysanthemums in the show, and you can see that those red circles were automatically drawn. Now let's say we're going to fan these guys. So I'm going to select my 3 blue chrysanthemums, go to Script, Angles, and Make into Fan. And then I'm going to go ahead and change them to 20-degree angle and fan them out at 40 degrees. By drawing both the safety distance circles for the effects and the positions, you'll be able to audit and make sure that all of your effects are staying inside of the safety distance circles that you've planned and the secured area you've planned at your shoot site. If you're entering the PyroJam competition, you don't need to worry about this at all. I just want to show off some of the stuff that the site layout features can do. So as the last part of that demo, let's go ahead and make a site layout. So to generate a site plan or a PDF, we'll go ahead and go to File, Diagrams, and choose Site Layout. Go ahead and just overwrite this one here. And let's pull up the PDF. So this is what it looks like right now. So that's the default and not so great. So let's go ahead and make a couple tweaks and see if we can make a better site plan. We'll go to the Rex window here. Go ahead and expand this. And to customize a site layout, we'll go to the blue gear and we'll choose Create or Edit Diagram, and I'll just say New Diagram Template. I'll give it a name, PyroJam. This is the backend name, site layout for the report. And then the name that we'll see on the front end, we'll give it a nicer name with capitalization and spaces. And we're going to go ahead and make a site layout. We don't want the grid. And let's go ahead and say that we want to change the way that the center is. So if we go back to that, looking at that PDF, you notice that you can't see the entire shoot site. So I want to center the shoot site around the positions and the position safety circles and not around the origin. So I'll just change the center of our site layout to be the center of the position safety distances. And then let's just scroll down using my mouse wheel and make sure that the orientation is landscape. And it is, so that's good. So everything else I think is okay. So let's click Enter to save, and we can close the Rex window, and we'll go to the File, Diagrams, and take a look. Now you notice because we created a custom site layout, there it is in the Diagrams menu, so I can just choose it there, and we'll just give this a new name, number 2, and that way we'll be able to compare those two. So there it is. At this moment, the site plan doesn't have any notations for audience. I've only demonstrated a few of the site plan tools. There are plenty of other site plan features, including the ability to draw lines and circles and shapes, and coming soon we'll be able to add text boxes and legends and other things as well. But I just wanted to give you an overview of some of what's possible. This wraps up today's video on creating the PyroJam show design template. I hope you really enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching, and good luck in the competition.